Welcome back to Pillow Talk Sessions with your host, Jessica Gillingham. Today, Jessica is joined by Cathrine Reimann, CEO of Landfolk, a curated holiday home platform redefining how quality and community drive growth in short-term rentals. They'll explore why Landfolk says no to half their potential hosts to protect quality, how combining AI with human warm hands support shapes the guest and host experience, and why storytelling and emotional search are changing how travelers discover their next stay.
Cathrine, welcome to the Pillow Talk Sessions podcast. It's really great to have you here, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation. But before we kind of kick into our discussion, could you please give an introduction to Landfolk and to yourself as well for our audience that may not be aware of the platform?
Yes, for sure, Jessica, and thank you so much for having me. So my name is Cathrine Reimann, and I'm co-founder of a platform called Landfolk. And Landfolk is a platform for handpicked holiday homes. We started 5 years ago. We just had a big celebration with 33 handpicked holiday homes in Denmark. And now we have, I just looked it up this morning, 1,538 holiday homes across 7 markets: Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Germany, France, Italy, and latest Spain as well. And our concept from day one has been to handpick holiday homes. We wanted to be an alternative to the OTAs who have this massive amount of supply on their platforms. And we wanted to make it a lot easier for our guests to find these incredible, beautiful, lovely places to spend the most important time for them, which is their holiday. And I would say we have been really successful. We've, from day one, also worked a lot on our host community. So made sure that, the owners of these special personal places feel connected to Landfolk as a company and as a brand, and always really valued transparency with them. And we see them as our partners more than just suppliers. Yeah, so a lot of really exciting things have happened the past 5 years, and I'm looking forward to digging into all of it together with you.
And that is a huge growth from 33 to over 6,000, from one market to now 7 markets. And I know that you've got lots planned as well for the future. But one of the things, looking at your website and looking at the homes, which are all absolutely gorgeous, but they're gorgeous, but not luxury, as in they're not sort of out of range of the normal person as well, which is, really an interesting kind of approach you've taken.
No, for sure. And I think we have a lot of times where, we've welcomed a new colleague or something, and then they're using the expression luxury, and everyone in the room is just like, no, we're not luxury. That's not what we stand for. We don't want to be, relevant for so few people. We much more want to have personal homes and quality homes and homes, that have the best locations and have hosts behind them that understand the role of hosting. So those are kind of more, down to earth almost criteria that we have.
Yeah, no, it's quality over luxury. It feels, it's not, I wouldn't say bucking the trend, absolutely not. But luxury, everyone wants to be luxury. Very few actually are. But it is also a market that is growing hugely in terms of demand and all that sort of side of things. So to have a platform that is proud in its fact that it is for, it's beautiful homes for normal people, I would kind of presume. But one of the things I want to explore with you, Cathrine, is growth and how you do scaling by holding on to your values and also the quality of your inventory. Because that is a difficult thing to do. Like, it would be really easy to just sort of take on all the kind of properties, everybody. I'm sure you have tons of people that want, tons of owners, hosts that want to be part of Landfolk. But having that sort of hand-picking, if you like, as your operational philosophy, how does that play out with you guys? And how does that then impact you're scaling?
Yeah, so and I think we've had this conversation so many times, right? Because from a commercial perspective, we're historically we've said no to 50% of the hosts or potential hosts who are applying with us. And for us, I think it's just become really clear that it is possible to scale. Like you were saying, I think we've had almost 3x growth every year on our supply since we started, and it is possible to scale, but with constraints. So we can see that by saying yes to the right houses for our brand and for our platform that, are qualifying from the criteria that we've set, we're able to get much better inventory, right? It's much higher quality houses. And we would rather have, 10 of those instead of 100 of low quality houses. So from a GPV perspective and, from a really strictly business perspective, it makes a lot of sense for us because it's high quality houses that we're getting. And we're also able to just the experience for our hosts that they are chosen already, it sets the bar for a really beautiful relationship with them where they can really see, okay, I am chosen because my house is as it is, that just sets the relationship off right. So not only are we scaling with better high quality houses, we're also getting better relationships with the houses, the hosts that we're accepting onto the platform. And at the end of the day, all of this is of course for our guests as well. It's to make sure that our guests are have an easy, lovely time finding the place that they should spend their holidays. And then when they arrive, they should also think that this is a lovely place. And they should leave again having refueled and having the exact right frames for them to have a really, really wonderful time. And that means that they'll be returning to us again because we're keeping that quality so high. So, I think with almost 3x growth a year, we are really scaling well, and putting our quality as a constraint is actually only helping us.
That's excellent. And having moderated quite a few panels with OTAs and sat in at conferences, a lot of conversations with the big OTAs, especially over the last year or so, the conversations all around quality. And the kind of, I guess, the frustration for them that a lot of their inventory, maybe 25% of their inventory isn't really bookable. Or if it is, it's, it's not a good kind of experience, shall we say. So I feel like what you guys have done from the beginning is knew that, like that you're solving that quality inventory issue right from the beginning by making sure that's part of that operating philosophy, if you like, that you have. But it must be a difficult one to stick to, as you've got ambitions to go elsewhere. So how do you, what are the sort of the practical ways that you make sure that any new property and new host fits your philosophy?
Yeah, so I think the first practical thing is hire the right people to onboard our hosts, right? So it's we are incredibly AI and tech enabled, of course, but we really value having people go in, and in Danish you have an expression smagsdommer, which is kind of a judgment call kind of thing. And we believe that is going to be humans that are able to make that right now anyways. And I think, so hiring the right colleagues to do this, we have a pretty intense onboarding sessions where, we go through why is this house a good fit? Why is this house not a good fit? And so on. And I think that makes a really, really big difference, that this is something that's human dependent, the qualification. Then we also have a lot of, we have 5 years of expertise and experience doing this now. So we can really quickly see, okay, if we, there are only photos of half of the house or only in some corner, it's a really quick indication of us, okay, we need more photos of this place before we can validate whether it's going to be a good stay or not. And then we have conversations with the hosts, just talk with them, understand, is this a place that they're, enjoying their own time at? Is this a place, where they go to unwind themselves and enjoy spending time with their families? And if they are, it's a super good indication for us that means that this house is going to be really, really, thoughtfully designed and a good experience. Yeah, I think those are some of the main guidelines that we have. And then I will also say, one thing that we're really seeing has been efficient for us is host growth. So where we have our hosts recommending other hosts to join the platform. And just, once a host has become onboarded with Landfolk and is starting to share their place, and then they understand the brand and our values and everything, and if they are recommending someone, then they also feel almost a sense of pride of like, okay, I'm going to keep the quality up, right? And then so we have really good experiences with hosts recommending other hosts, because we can see that those are the very, very best, because everyone is interested in keeping the quality high.
It's interesting because you put a lot of focus on your customer experience, whether that is the guest or whether it is the host owner as well. Now, I've been talking to property managers recently. Over the last few weeks, I've had a number of conversations with property managers, which is a different model. But quite a few of them were saying to me that their biggest issue is churn of owners and properties. How is your churn? Because it sounds like you really are mitigating against churn from your hosts and owners. And you will have a natural attrition there, absolutely. But how is your churn? Like, you don't need to tell me the exact numbers or anything, but how is it? Are you proud of the churn that you have? Like, how is it?
Yeah, I mean, it is, I think, almost our number one KPI, right? Or like a metric that we look at, because it is such a easy way to spot platform health and community health and host health, basically. And it is very, very, very low. We have natural churn in the sense that sometimes our hosts sell their holiday homes. We have all of it. I didn't mention this before, but we're 7 co-founders of Landfolk, and we all had we worked together at the Airbnb before. So, a lot of the good flexibility that is, one of the main strengths of Airbnb is also something that is the best way forward. So we don't have long contracts for our hosts. We don't tie them to the platform legally, all of these things. So for us, if a host comes and says, oh, I need to sell my holiday home, then we say, okay, that's totally fine and acceptable. Tell the new owners about Landfolk as well, kind of thing. So that obviously brings some, I think we usually call it healthy churn or like valid churn or something like that. And so we have a very low churn. I think it's something we take immensely seriously. I remember talking with one of our competitors' colleagues a while back, and I was asking, like, so what's your churn generally? And he said 100%, and I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? And he was saying, like, yeah, well, I mean, they, bring in owners, and then they have a contract for a year, and then they end up really unhappy, and then they have to find a whole new set of owners the next year, right? And it was just mind-baffling for me, because our setup is so different. Like, we invest heavily in each and every holiday home that we accept to the platform. It's just it'll be a terrible business model for us if we say goodbye to them after a year already. Yeah, I just looked into the 33 houses that we started with 5 years ago, and we have 60% of them are still part of the platform, actively sharing their houses, and the 40% all were because they've sold their houses. And I think that just goes to show, if you invest in your hosts and you have a good relationship with them, and they feel that they are part of something, I think that that really goes a long way. Along with also, of course, getting them bookings with guests who really understand that this is a personal space that they're entering, and it's something that you have to take care of and be mindful of and appreciate. And I think that really, really helps on any churn issues.
You're really highlighting the importance of emotional collateral, not just the commercial relationship, which is obviously, very fundamental, but having that emotional collateral, that emotional connection with those customers, your host customers, is so important, that feeling part of.
Just a quick pause in today's conversation. This episode of Pillow Talk Sessions is brought to you by Abode Worldwide, the strategic communications and public relations agency partnering with ambitious hospitality tech brands to build brand authority and create category leaders. From thought leadership to global media relations, Abode helps the companies transforming how we stay, operate, and experience hospitality to tell their story with impact. If you're a tech company shaping the next era of hospitality, learn more at abodeworldwide.com. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
I want to talk to you about tech, actually, and humanness. And you talked about it on one level around how human judgment, when you're picking properties, you've obviously got automation, for part of that journey, but then it's human judgment as well. But in our prep call, you used the most lovely phrase. I'm not going to say it in Danish, but in English, you translated it as warm hands. So talk to me about how you use in other parts of the business technology, but then you've also got that part of it. And please say the expression as well in the way.
Yeah. So in Danish, we have an expression which is literally translates to warm hands, right? And it is that, that the human touch that only humans can bring. And I think, one of our advantages and also possibilities right now in, this AI enabled day and age is figuring out where can we place these warm hands, these varme hænder, in the most, both optimal, but also, the wisest positions in a flow that either a host or a guest will enter. And I think it's so difficult, and it's so much fun to see, where is it we can make a difference. We have, I think, we have 3 big teams. It's our product, of course. They do a lot of really, really important things. And then we have our supply or our host experts team is also the biggest, and along with our guest and host care team. And, these are teams that would traditionally be big, right? Because that's how we would usually go to it. And what we're trying to see is, okay, how can we make sure that we're using these warm hands in the right spots, and how can we make sure that tech is enabling these warm hands instead of overriding them or over that job. And I think it's a host will care less about what email they're getting, more than they'll care that they can talk to a human being and share the story of their holiday home. So the telephone conversation is something that we really, really prioritize. Just the same as, a guest who is having trouble, locking themselves in or something, and have a frustration, of course, and, just need to talk to a human. They need to be able to get access to a human right away. Whereas the Wi-Fi codes and, a lot of information about the holiday home, they can just as well get sent with technology. So we're really trying to map out, where are these pain points or these opportunities where warm hands can make a difference. And then that's what we're doubling down on and using our teams for.
Yeah. And I guess this is a journey that many in hospitality, or many actually in retail, in any kind of place that you have customers, working out where do we place the warm hands, and maybe that will change as well as other technology comes out. Or where can we have the automation? But I think you made the point there that the phone, making sure that it's human on the phone, is a place. Maybe that's your last frontier that might go or may never go. And I was actually listening to a different podcast in a totally different space yesterday, where the founder of Dermalogica, Face.
Yeah.
Was talking to Cathy Kay, who's my hero, journalist, BBC podcaster as well. They were talking about how the phone is where you must have the humans there for customers who want that bit.
Yeah.
And I'm sure many operators have made the mistake of thinking it's okay to have a chatbot answer. And maybe in some cases and some places that does work, depending on their brand values and things. But yeah, I love that warm hands. I want to talk with you a little bit. Actually, we stay on if we keep on, let's say, AI and LLM discoverability and how, because it's when we did the prep call, we talked about this, but there's been a lot more about this now, in the press around how LLM discoverability and AI is changing the way that people research and buy travel products. But it's an interesting one as well, because it's not like it's not yet changing. Like, it's changing on one level, like all the research is changing. We can't actually, the purchase bit hasn't yet. But as Landfolk, you must be thinking about this and how you're going to approach things as it continues to shift in the way that travelers are buying travel products. So what is your philosophy at Landfolk to kind of mitigate risk here, but also to capture opportunity?
So I think we actually started with the realization that there are right now two types of people, two types of guests. There are the guests who love to do thorough research on their travel and, spend hours and hours and hours of just, inspiration, digging into it, figuring out, finding that gem in this mass sea of OTAs. And then you have the guests who are married to that first person, so you have really, really different approaches to finding the right holiday home for you. So what we've actually done is use AI to make it a fun experience for everyone. That's what we're aiming for. So in a traditional search, if you're sitting, then you can either ask ChatGPT, where should I go? Or you can go onto a platform and then you use filters and you say, okay, I want a hot tub and we're going to be 2 adults, 2 kids traveling in this region kind of thing. And then you put in the dates and then you get a lot of houses that may or may not match what it is you're looking for. So we've developed a visual search engine, which is AI powered, where, you can go in and you can write a family holiday with the preteens. I want a super nice coffee corner and I want to, have a large shared space so that we can hang out and play games. And that was probably a very long search thing. You don't have to write it out as a sentence, but you can just kind of write, what's the vibe or the feeling or, what is it, emotionally that you're going for this holiday. And then we use that search to find, all of these relevant holiday homes that either have, a super nice shared space where you can see a photo of that shared space right away. And you can see, and this place also has a coffee corner, right? And it has ceramic coffee cups or whatever it is that you're searching for. Or you can say like, I want somewhere that's super 70s architecture inspired, and then you'll find those kind of places, or 60s, or we have so many different thoughts and wishes for what it is our holiday home is going to give us that it's difficult just to put it into filters. So it's basically we're trying to take that conversation that you could have on an AI as ChatGPT or whichever is your preference, and have that conversation possible on Landfolk instead, then match it directly with the photos that we have of our holiday homes that are matching that vibe that you're looking for.
It's a real shift from search being search to search being storytelling.
Exactly, yeah.
And for somebody like me who doesn't like to do a lot of research, I'm in that camp. Just being able to say, this is the feeling that I want when I'm on this particular trip or vacation, and then getting the inspiration comes back, is great. Is there anything else though with LLM discoverability that you guys are thinking about? Particularly in terms if people are using the platforms like Chat or Claude or Gemini.
I think what we are realizing is that quality is really important in that mix. So just making sure, that it's easy to see that this is high quality and that good photos and good descriptions of the places and so on. Yeah.
And I think it's being really consistent as well is so important. And I guess that ties into the quality as well. Like you know what your value proposition is, you know what you're offering.
Yeah.
So you've got that ability to be a category leader, if you like, around that narrative.
And also, I mean, good reviews.
Mm-hmm.
I think also really playing into that.
And then, Cathrine, what's the plan for Landfolk? Now, I know you got Series A, I think, was it in 2024? Have now expanded into the 7 countries, not just the Nordic, but I think it's Spain and Italy that you
and
are
France
also, and France as well.
Yeah.
What plans do you have now? Like, where would you like to be? What might be shifting and changing around what you're doing at Landfolk?
Yeah, so we are. I think we 80% of our focus now is about doubling down and making sure that we get a good market share in the countries that we're present today, and just make sure that everything that we've been doing the past 5 years, that we get even better at doing that. And then we're also from the very beginning, we were really constantly asked by our guests who, because our concept today is that we are fully remote areas. So it's holiday home places that are outside of the city, located in nature. And we've had from the very beginning, we've had guests who say like, okay, I would love to go spend a week at one of these, holiday homes outside of the city. And what do I do then when I need, want a couple of days in the city? And because of that, we're going to be doing a pilot in Copenhagen as our first urban destination. And we're mostly going to actually have our hosts who have their holiday homes as part of Landfolk and that live in Copenhagen. They're also going to be trying out with us how is it to share their apartments in an urban setting with the same approach that we're handpicking. It's quality over quantity. And then very importantly, we are going to be fully compliant with the legislation in Copenhagen. So we see that as, I think sharing your home, whether it's your second home or your primary home, is fundamentally such a beautiful thing, should protected also by the legislation that there is in each country. So in Copenhagen, for example, there's a 70-day cap, so you can share it with guests 70 days a year, and that's something that we're building directly into our platform. So it isn't possible to do that. So we want to be responsible for this pilot and for all if we decide to continue and have this as an alternative to sharing your home in an urban setting every once in a while with guests who really are mindful of this being a home and who want to experience the city authentically and responsibly as well. So I think it's going to be a very, very exciting time for us to try this and see how that works out. And it's not because our focus in any way is shifting. We are still mostly focused on holiday homes. That is where we have of our supply today. It's where we have really beautiful relationships with our hosts and where we know we can find the right guests who want to experience this. It's actually, we're talking a lot about this YOLO. Instead of FOMO, fear of missing out, it's the yearning to miss out, or it's the being excited about not being part of everything. I think that's what we can really provide our guests in a holiday home setting, that they can just, escape reality basically. And now we want to see, how is that going to look if instead of this really intense nature experience, we can give them a culture experience instead, but do it in a really responsible and still quality focused kind of way.
I'd say the spirit of what you're doing at Landfolk is still there, but I think it'd be really interesting to see what it's like renting out your host's primary residence compared to their holiday homes.
For
Like,
sure.
there must be assumptions that you're making, but you may, as the pilot goes on, see where there might be challenge there or not.
Yeah, I think we are going to learn so much. And I think it's also, starting out without having all the answers is also a really big part of our DNA. Like I mentioned when we started Landfolk, we had no features. 5 years ago when you went on the platform, you couldn't see the price for what a stay would cost. We didn't have a calendar. These when I think today, like, how did we even manage to? I think we got bookings in for 500,000 euros within a very, very short time, right? Without having all these answers to the questions. And I think that's how we're approaching our urban pilot as well. We've got the fundamentals down. We've got the first host onboarded with apartments in Copenhagen. We understand and, fully respect the legislation that is in the city. And then we need to see all of the unknowns and to handle them along the way.
Brilliant, Cathrine. This kind of helps me to come to a wrap-up question that I want to ask you. And as you scale and grow and continue to iterate, I guess, what Landfolk is, what is a value that you absolutely will never let go of as a company and as a brand?
I think the most important value, if I could, if I have to say, like, the number one value, I think it's quality. That's something that we will never let go of. I think under quality, there's a lot of, for me anyways, there's a lot of things nestled under that. So it's, being a responsible company. It's treating our hosts warmly and respectively, with respect. And it's making sure that our guests, when they have their booking experience and when they arrive at the place, they feel that this is a quality place for them. So quality for me is this massive thing, almost an umbrella for our entire organization and the experiences that we want to give both our hosts and our guests. So yeah, I think quality is our value number one. And without that quality, we will just be another OTA with a lot of supply.
And I think that the warm hands that you talked about, that really fits there, doesn't it? It really fits of what you're doing is that quality of where to put the warm hands, where not to. Very intentional about what you guys are doing. Cathrine, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. We will put in the show notes all about Landfolk and how people can get in touch. And I would urge any listeners to do check out the properties. They are absolutely gorgeous. But is there anything else you would like to say? Is there anything that that you guys are doing over the next few months that you'd like our audience to know? Anything you'd like to add?
Yes, thank you, Jessica, so much for having me. It's always fun to talk about the Landfolk, but for sure, I mean, follow along on. We have an Instagram that we spend a lot of effort on, and I can really urge go in and try out our inspirational search. It's even if you don't have a holiday specifically that you're looking for, it is a lot of fun to see. Okay, what actually matches this kind of vibe or mood that I'm dreaming about. Then you can get a lot of inspiration for these beautiful places that we have.
Wonderful, Cathrine. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And that wraps it up for today's episode of Pillow Talk Sessions with Jessica Gillingham. Thanks so much for listening, and if you'd like to stay connected and never miss a conversation, head over to pillowtalksessions.com to subscribe. You can also follow us on LinkedIn for more insights and interviews with leaders shaping the future of hotels, short-term rentals, and tech-enabled hospitality. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Pillow Talk Sessions.